Guys, I'm just doing a couple of videos back to back. I've been collecting various articles and documents over the last few years about chronic pain. When you belong to forums and things, you're often linked to funny websites and funny quotations and things that people have written because they know exactly what it's like to be you. It's an interesting thing when you talk about talking about your own illnesses. And I've come across loads and loads of funny-ish documents about things you should never say to people with chronic pain, and things you should never say to people with fibromyalgia, and things you should never say to people with ME. Now, I don't really know how I feel about this, because I do think it's always down to an individual, and some people love talking about themselves and some people really don't. And some people just want to be treated normally, and some people just want everything to be, they want themselves to be an exception because they have certain things going on in their lives. Now, I'm one of those people who, with the exception of YouTube, because of the lack of support that I felt that I could find on YouTube for myself, I am a need-to-know basis girl. I try not to bring my health up in conversation unless I'm directly asked by a close friend. I'm honest when it comes to the workplace, so I am not breaching their insurance rights, but I do not tell anyone more than they have to know. If I could, I think I would just be invisible and go and do things very privately when I'm at work. And things like sitting down when everyone else is standing up, I think it just makes me look lazy rather than anything else, which is why I don't draw attention to it. Right, anyway, this is kind of off the point. But anyway, I've been collecting a few statements and a few passages and things over the years, and I realised that I've got quite a collection now. I think I've got about 15 statements of things you should never say to people with chronic pain. Now, I want to know what your responses are to this, really. Lots of these things I'm sure you will have heard, because people don't think before they open their mouths. They really don't. And I'm sure some people would say things thinking they're being positive and helpful, but they're really not, because this is your life every single day. So I'm just going to go through a few of them, or I might go through all of them, because I don't have a 15-minute limit on my videos anymore. Right, okay. We're just going to have a bit of a chat. So the first one that I found is, you don't look sick, or you're looking really well. Now this, I'll actually just read straight out what it says under this point. This comment puts the patient between proverbial rock and a hard place. If we let ourselves go and show how we actually feel, people are uncomfortable and don't want to be around us. On the other hand, if we manage to fix ourselves up and put on a brave face, no one realises we're in pain. If you think about it, most chronic illnesses are invisible. Some people look great until the moment they die from a massive heart attack. Just because someone doesn't have visible sores or a visible deformity doesn't mean there isn't serious pain under the surface. Now this rings true with me. I love it if I successfully conceal how I feel. But being told on a particularly bad day that I look great, it's soul destroying. When you honestly feel like everything is a massive effort. Just something to think about. People telling you that the solution is to get out more or to exercise more. Often this is just another way of insinuating you're lazy. Just read out this bit. This comment in particular is always received as an insult because pain does make exercise impossible and weight is packed on year and year. Surely that should say year in, year out. Anyway, just like diabetics, if more exercise were the answer, we'd all be over it. Exercise is an important component of most chronic pain management and could help, but it's only one part and it should be approached slowly and carefully to avoid triggering a flare. Now, since I've lost a lot of weight over the last 3 years, people have said to me, "Oh, have you been working out?" Now, if you can control the comfort eating side of chronic pain and chronic illness, pain burns a lot of calories. It really does. You're awake for a lot longer than normal people. You don't have as much of an appetite. And fair enough, you might crave sugary stuff, but most of the time, it's the mood side of things that makes you eat. So it's not always just an exercise thing. You always need to look at the bigger picture. And also, you need to believe people that when they're in pain, the last thing they fancy doing is going out on their bikes for a cycle. Another favourite is, at least it's not fatal. At least it's not going to kill you. A lot of chronic pain syndrome patients' response to this comment, unfortunately, is yeah, but sometimes I wish it was. It's not a helpful way to think about things. Understandably, people tend to be more interested in preventing death than improving quality of life. Now, for me, I think another reason why I don't care that I smoke is because I have no urge to live into my 60s if my life's going to be like this. I've said this to my therapist, and she looked surprised. Now, I can't see why she was surprised. I don't want to die of liver failure from all the painkillers I take. I don't want to die of random respiratory depression from an overdose of morphine. And I don't want to die of old age when everything else is crumbling as well as the pain that I have every day. So I would much rather drop dead of a stroke or a heart attack or something from the complications of smoking. Obviously, sod's law. I'm not laughing. Sod's law, I'd end up with some really slow eat-away cancer from smoking. But we can all hope for a quick, painless death, can't we? People telling you about people they know who have tried other cures or have read about things. Or I have a friend. It's one of the toughest comments to deal with, because it's usually said by a well-meaning person or someone who's trying to be nice and helpful. Now, the reality is anyone who is ill will constantly be doing their own research, will constantly be talking to doctors, and will constantly be keeping their eyes open for anything that claims to be the magic bullet cure. Hearing that kind of thing from people is not helpful because of how often it happens and how often you then look something up and it doesn't apply to you. Now, currently, it's loads of hype about the spinal cord stimulator, which has now been proven to actually not be that good for causalgia, which is any type of neuropathic pain. Now, musculoskeletal pain is horrendous, and it's tiring and it's wearing, but nerve pain is in a league of its own. And everyone being told that the future is spinal cord stimulation, but it only works for certain kinds of pain, is a real downer, to be honest. If that's what people honestly think is the best option in the near future, and well, it's been done for about the last 5 years. Just something else to think about. Next time you say, "Oh, I had a friend who tried this, that, and the other," chances are you've probably tried it. I am the queen of throwing money at problems. I've done acupuncture, 3 different types of massage. I'm now throwing money into therapy for about £45 an hour. I don't know where I'm finding the money. It's the rest of my student loan. But I need to be actively doing something to try and fix it instead of just sitting around taking tablets. Right. Commenting about people's sleep is something that I find quite hard, and something that I think everyone does, especially people with chronic fatigue and with fibromyalgia. People moaning to you about having a late night because it was their choice, they went out, is soul destroying. I can sit up for days on end just not being able to sleep because of the amount of pain I'm in, and people will still say, oh my God, I'm so tired. I met this amazing guy last night. We were having sex all night. Or I met this amazing guy and we went out dancing all night. You know, there's only so much sympathy we can muster up for other people. Now, I always tell myself my pain doesn't make other people's pain less. And I will always sympathise and empathise as much as I can, but not about sleep, because a lot of things are self-induced. But the common belief that if you got more sleep, you'd feel better. Yeah, it's true. You would. But hearing that from someone doesn't help. Doesn't help, you know that. Everyone tries to sleep, funnily enough, because they know they feel better after they've slept well. Anyway, just something else. I'm trying to think what's next on my list that I haven't kind of said in an elaboration. I don't know whether I want to say this one out loud, because it makes me very, very sad. It's all in your head. This is the all-time worst, most insulting thing you can say to anyone with chronic pain or a chronic illness. There isn't any proof that we're in pain. If you have chronic pain syndrome and your cause of the pain has been eradicated, sometimes you look cured. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do to prove that it still hurts. Think before you say something like that to someone. Or even if you just word it in a way that you haven't thought about. I had someone say to me, well, at least you accept that your pain is psychological. Now, I think what I just said is that I find it harder to deal with my pain, so I perceive it as more when I'm in a bad mood. Now, that makes sense to anyone. If you're tired and you have a headache, you feel that the headache's worse and you feel like you can't cope with it. Pain every single day, and then if you have a cold on top or you haven't slept for a few days, stress makes you perceive the pain as worse, or just makes you cope with it worse. That is not the same as accepting you have psychological pain. I put that person right, but generally speaking, I'm not very good at that. I do just kind of take it and not tend to respond. So I guess this video has kind of turned into a just think before you talk. Think before you say anything to anybody. This isn't even particular to people with chronic illness. This is anyone. You can offend people quite easily, but something that you might not think about might be a deep insecurity that somebody has. Like, I would say one of my biggest insecurities is the fact that people think I want attention. Now, I think the only time I ever want attention, in inverted commas, is when I choose to put information out on YouTube, when I choose to blog, when I choose to talk to you guys. Now, this is my time, and then it's your time if you choose it to be, but you can come and go as you please. I think that's what I like about YouTube, is that if at any time you get bored, you can turn me off. Whereas if you're in a one-on-one conversation, it's not the same. You can't just say, oh, shut up, I've heard enough. I guess that's why I feel fine about talking online. Right, moving on. Being told to be more positive. In order to get out of bed, put makeup on, wash your hair, you need some sort of level of positivity. Everything uses up spoons. If you don't know the spoon theory, by the way, check it out. It's butyoudon'tlooksick.com, the spoon theory. You will read a lovely story written by a woman with lupus, and to try and explain to her friend what having lupus is like, and everything is explained in terms of spoons. It's just very, very good. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up, and it's a brilliant story. There are actually some videos on YouTube explaining it as well. Everything uses up spoons, so in order for someone with a chronic illness to get out of bed, they need some degree of positivity or some degree of self-drive. Telling somebody that they need to be more positive is not a healthy way to try and help someone. There are obviously great benefits to a positive outlook, looking on the bright side and trying to carry on as best you can, but unrealistic expectations of yourself can also be destroying. It can be soul destroying and can really put you down day in, day out. If there's some degree of pain every single day, you just have to take pleasure in an okay day, because you might never have a fine day again. That sounds very negative. But if I can smile today and say, I've only taken 7 tablets today instead of the 8 that I needed to take yesterday, that's fantastic. I got out today. I went on a bus. Now, it was very painful, and no one else seemed to have a problem with it. But, at least I got out of the house today. That kind of thing. It's important to think about the little things. This last one is probably something that is closest to my heart, because I say this to myself a lot, and I think everybody with a chronic illness does. It could be worse. There are plenty of people worse off than me. Plenty of people dying of cancer, plenty of people losing their loved ones to horrible illnesses, people trapped in their own bodies, people in comas who might be conscious underneath it all, but no one can tell, people with strokes who are trapped inside their own bodies, this kind of thing. Now, if you keep telling yourself that, you might keep on getting out of bed. But having someone else say it to you is soul destroying. You believe again that you're making a fuss, that you don't deserve the attention that you're getting, or you don't even deserve the help that you need. The guilt you get associated with this statement, there are people worse off than you. Guilt makes your pain worse. Guilt makes you feel horrible. Well, everybody knows that. That feeling of embarrassment, that feel of guilt, is a horrible emotion. And I think actually it's one of the things that, I think embarrassment more so, is something that if I wish I could eradicate an emotion, I think it would be that. It's the humiliation of it all. The idea that people are looking at you because you're different. Anyway, that's off point. People worse off than you. Yes, it's always important to bear in mind, but you don't always need to tell someone. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. I've read loads of kind of statements and pause for thought type documents, and that's kind of the list that I've come up with, compiling it all together. So yeah, just think before you say anything to anyone and be nice. And it's lovely talking to you again, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye.